Okay. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, I should say, and welcome to the webinar for the RealProSure Mandatory General Liability Insurance for agents and managers. Thank you for taking the time. We know your time is precious, and we've intentionally made this seminar as efficient as possible for you to get as much information as you can on the implementation process. Before we ask Adam, who I'll introduce in a minute, to speak, I just want to bring to your attention some context for you. In 2015, it was brought to your association's attention that some members may have inadequate insurance coverages. After some further research, we found after an insurance partner out of Western Canada with Tool Pete's RealProSure program. With our research, we learned more about the program and how it could help members. Since it's launched here, over 255 New Brunswick realtors joined the program, including several large companies. MBRE approached several insurance companies in our province and elsewhere to ensure we would be offering our members the best coverage available at a fair cost. None were able to offer a comparable offer. This analysis was assisted by former MBRE member Daryl Spires and also Brendan McGee, who has joined us as well on the webinar. At last year's annual general meeting, a bylaw amendment vote was passed, enacting compulsory commercial general liability insurance through Tool Pete's RealProSure program for all members to take effect January 1st, 2020. This is why your association felt it was important to circle back to managers before the invoicing process starts and to know what is covered under the program. So there are some reasons for universal and mandatory commercial general liability insurance, and I'll just highlight some of them now. First, consistency. Currently, every real estate brokerage may have different coverages, limits, and limitations in what is covered, including coverage for their salespeople. This program provides the consistency similar to what errors and omissions covers. Second point, value and protection for members and the public. In many industries today, certificates and proof of insurance is an everyday occurrence. This country is becoming more and more litigious, and our sector is catching up for protection of its members, especially with the realities of MLS and showings. The public is further protected as well as the realtor with this kind of program. Third, it helps in setting a minimum for coverage which companies and individuals can elect to enhance, but everyone will have consistent coverage. This program provides the consistency and ensures coverages are for everyone and are equally protected. So that's the short history of where we are now. The intent of this webinar is to cover any questions you have regarding the program. Before we get into that, there's a few housekeeping notes before we begin. Everyone's microphone will be muted for the duration of the presentation. Why? Because it avoids background noise, hearing people sneeze, for example. You don't want to hear me sneeze for sure, or any other distractions. However, we are encouraging questions, and this is how you can ask questions which will be answered at the end of the presentation. There is a chat window with the webinar that is available for any questions you may have during the presentation. We will answer them at the end, but please feel free to type the questions throughout so they're not forgotten. Also, this webinar will be recorded for future use so that other members can benefit from this webinar if they were not able to attend. If you would prefer to text your question, you can do so as well by using the following number: 506-238-3223. And as you can see, that's also been inputted in the chat window. Text questions will also be answered at the end as well. At the MBREA office, I'm pleased to also have Jane Gerard, our financial officer, and Timothy Stewart, our communications officer, including myself. In case I didn't introduce myself, it's Jamie Ryan, your executive officer. So thank you for putting up with that long-winded introduction. Our presenter today, who will of course be available to answer the questions, he's our subject matter expert, and that is Adam Thompson from Tool Pete, who is one of the architects of the RealProSure program. Adam is no stranger to the membership in the association. Adam will now take over the presentation, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jamie, and thanks everyone for attending the webinar here today. As per the introduction, we're going to talk about why insurance like this, general liability, may be needed. We're going to go over a few highlights of the coverage here, and we're going to talk about what we do if we already have coverage or if we don't have coverage, along with any invoicing as well too. So let's get into it. So a general liability policy. So this would respond and defend to investigate and settle any claims for negligent acts, for property damage or bodily injury. So what does that mean? It really means somebody's been injured or property's been damaged. We have situations that lie here in exposures us as real estate professionals. Some of these exposures could be intangible, some of them may be tangible. So this is how I like to draw the line in the sand. What is E&O coverage? And we all have coverage currently through REIA, which is the Real Estate Insurance Alliance. So that coverage there is errors and omissions. Those are typically relating back to an intangible loss. Somebody's out of money, non-disclosure issues, and we'll go through a few of these claims examples here on the next slide as well. With general liability in this RealProSure program, we're talking about tangible losses. Somebody's been injured, property's been damaged, now we're getting blamed for that. And the big value of any liability policy is not the case where we have or have not done something. It's the case where there's an allegation being brought and we need to be properly defended. In this day and age, unfortunately, it's far too easy to bring a false allegation to a third party with very little recourse coming back to that third party. So this provides ample protection here for all real estate members. For any type of allegations, either you're going to have coverage through REIA or through this general liability program. It's designed to be comprehensive, and the two policies complement one another in any claim situation. So let's go through a few claims. I like to talk about different claims examples where these policies are going to get used in different types of situations. Now, this is an overview, so it's not a comprehensive list, but this does a good job of explaining the differences with these two types of claims. Errors and omissions claims, non-disclosure, misrepresentation, contractual issues, financial loss. So again, we were talking about intangible losses. Those are all intangible losses, nothing that's actually happened in the real world, just everything that's happened with respect to that transaction in real estate. Can everyone see my slides? Okay, if you can't, or if you can't hear us, just please write in the chat bar and we'll address those issues if we have any. Again, moving along, RealProSure type of claims, bodily injury, property damage. Those are the primary types of losses that occur typically for us under this program. We also have other coverages though that we've included under this as well. Lost or stolen bank drafts up to $100,000. Legal expense if you get brought against a regulatory body. So if you have a public hearing that you have to go to, and that's typically what sometimes happens in liability cases or lawsuit cases, is that a public complaint, a formal complaint is made to the regulatory body, and we also need to defend that allegation as well too. This policy provides $25,000 legal expense for those situations. Also, what we've done is included property damage to include stolen or missing items during an open house or a showing. So sometimes things go missing. There could, like I say, be an allegation saying this went missing, and this policy will defend those types of allegations as well too. And if it is deemed that we were negligent or the item was stolen during the open house or the showing, this policy does have the ability to pay and reimburse the homeowner for those items as well too. So a brief overview of the coverages here. So the liability limit is $5 million for bodily injury or property damage. That's per occurrence. There's no maximum. So if one agent to, let's say, have a devastating to $500 million, it's not going to exhaust anybody else's coverage under this program. Everybody has their own $5 million limit. It's very important when we're setting up a program like this to make sure that one person's actions doesn't affect the coverage for the membership. Other important things to note here, you've got a $1,000 property damage deductible. This is definitely not a maintenance policy. It's designed to protect us against worst case scenarios. We do sometimes though have situations where there's some minor property damage that could occur. If anything is minor and it's going to be under that $1,000, this policy would not be economical for this to respond, because you're going to pay us $1,000, and if, let's say, the damage was $400, it's not going to be advantageous to go ahead with that claim. The other important thing to note is the bodily injury deductible is $0. We've had some injuries, and most recently we've had some fairly devastating injuries as well too, with high sums being demanded. Now, it's important to note that regardless of the type of bodily injury that's being alleged, there's not going to be any deductible that we'll have to pay for that. We'll just defend on the first dollar. Other things to note as well too, I mentioned on the last slide, there's $100,000 for lost or stolen bank drafts. We do have bank drafts that sometimes go missing, and what happens in those cases is the salesperson would lose this bank draft, and the question always comes, well, what do I do? I always say the first thing you should do is freak out. No, just joking. The first thing you want to do is call your managing agent, call your broker, and they're going to call the bank. And the bank will typically reissue the bank draft, but the managing agent or the owner of the company has to sign a personal indemnity for the same amount. This provides backing for that personal indemnity up to that $100,000 limit. So it's important to have for those types of situations where a bank draft goes missing. So often it does reappear, and they usually find it under the driver's seat of their car for some reason. Legal guard. We also have a legal guard expenses that can be included under this, and essentially what this is a 24/7 hotline that you can call and speak to a lawyer as well too. And in addition to that, you also do have the other legal expense that I discussed on the last slide against the regulatory body as well. So there's proper legal protection for any type of situation that we could have. Lost listing expense coverage. This is a new coverage that we recently added after the Fort McMurray losses and fires. So what happened there was we had a lot of agents that had lost listings in the fire because of a named peril, and they were out of pocket for expenses on those listings. So we're talking home staging, we're talking photography, any other out-of-pocket expenses that would be reasonable for that listing specifically. We're now going to get a reimbursement up to $2,500 per listing. There is no premium for that coverage, and there is no deductible. So if you've lost a listing because of a named peril or fire or a flood, this coverage can come into effect. And again, like I said on my last slide, stolen items during an open house or a showing, this would be covered, and it's up to the $5 million limit. For some reason, it's always a Rolex watch that goes missing. And often when we ask to get the police involved, we ask to get their homeowner's policy involved. Sometimes we hear back from these people, and sometimes we do not. So another thing here we wanted to point out is who is covered under this policy, who is going to be protected in a lawsuit. And really it was important for us to design this to make sure that in any type of lawsuit that's going to get brought, there's going to be proper protection for the people named in that lawsuit. So the agency, the company, salespersons contracted to the agency could be named. We've also seen unlicensed assistants be named. We had a situation years back where an unlicensed assistant caused property damage, and they were actually being named personally on that lawsuit. So it was very important that unlicensed assistants are also defended as named insureds under this policy as well too, because they could be liable for what we are doing as licensed real estate agents. Partnerships as well. We have seen situations where they have been named on lawsuits, and any other partnerships or joint ventures, any shareholders. The other thing here that this slide doesn't indicate is professional or personal corporations as well. Lawyers try to name everybody as they possibly can in a lawsuit situation. And so again, it's important that we have proper protection for anybody that's going to be named. Okay, so what if I already have a RealProSure online policy? We've been selling these policies in New Brunswick for about 3 years. So we've had people go onto our online portal, purchase these policies. It's the same coverage that's going to be enacted on January 1st, 2020. And what's important to note is if you have an online policy with us, that this coverage is going to automatically roll into MBREA's master policy. So what does that mean? What if I bought my policy in June, or what if my policy renewed in June and I paid the full amount of the premium? So what's going to be happening here is a prorated amount for the return premium should be processed here by mid-December by our team here at Tool Pete, and the credit cards for which the payment was made will be refunded for the prorated amount. So everyone's going to just pay for the days of coverage that they need, and there's not going to be any gaps or anything really that the members need to do for this to occur. This process is going to be automatic. So if you guys do have any questions on this process or how it's going to roll in, then definitely let me know. We also had situations where we had brokerages subscribe to the RealProSure program as well too. And it's important to note again that this coverage is automatically going to roll into MBREA's master policy. The liability portion of these coverages are exactly the same. And the policy renewals for these brokerage policies after May 1st, we had automatically prorated these premiums to reflect the January 1st start date. If you had a brokerage policy that renewed prior to May 1st with us, then we'll be doing a prorated cancellation of that policy, rolling it into this master policy January 1st. What if I have commercial general liability insurance elsewhere? So you could already have insurance with a local broker, let's say. It's important to note that, again, we're going to have this $5 million commercial general liability in place January 1st. So we may need to go back and advise our insurance broker of this and advise them to either cancel or amend the policy. I may have my building insured, my office contents, and that might have a liability component attached to it. It's important to note that that we need to amend that policy and delete that liability section, because we do not want to have duplication or two different liability policies insuring the same risk. You could have a situation where there's a lawsuit being brought, and the rhetorical question is always, which policy pays first? And that could be a dispute between the two insurance carriers, and we want to avoid that if we can. What if I currently don't have general liability insurance? Members will not be required to sign up or do anything really to get onto this program. Again, your coverage is going to automatically start here January 1st, 2020. How will I be invoiced for this policy? So the invoicing will all be done on one invoice with respect to the premium for 2020. The premium will be $164.95. We've guaranteed this rate for the 21 and 22 calendar years. Along with this invoice, it'll also include the REIA premium as well too. Any billing inquiries can be made to Jane Gerard at MBREA. So what if I don't currently have general liability insurance? Again, there's not going to be any applications that are going to be required. It's going to automatically roll into that coverage January 1st. Important to note, this policy insures real estate operations only. We could have other commercial operations that are outside of real estate. These would not be covered under this program. If you engage in any other services or any other commercial operations, you may be required to carry a separate policy to insure those operations elsewhere. So again, this is only for real estate operations only. If you have any questions, though, please feel free to contact myself. My email is there, athompson@toolpete.com. So fire me an email if you do have any questions, and we'll be able to address that. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. For some of you, it sounds like I'm in a cave somewhere. Hopefully you can hear me okay, at least. I just wanted to remind individuals that you can certainly put in the chat option any questions. Also, just a reminder, there is a text option if you want to type in your question at 506-238-3223. We also don't want to belabor this webinar, but I just, Adam, I just have a question for you because we obviously think of our members on price and such. When and if was there a time that this insurance actually went up in price? And any time that...
It's a good question, Jamie. So we've been administrating this program for 10 years now. It's ran smoothly and it's been profitable for the insurance carrier. So we've never actually had to increase a premium under this program. It continues to run well as we continue to grow in different provinces of Canada as well too, which provides stability back to the insurance carrier as well. Long story short, we've never increased a premium and we don't plan on starting anytime soon.
Okay, well, thank you, Adam. I wanted to make sure that was heard. It's not very often. I know my auto insurance, my home insurance, pretty much every other insurance that I have has gone up in the past. So that's a bit reassuring. Just in case someone else is just holding back to ask a question or typing in a question, I just have another quick one to ask you. With regards to other provinces that you're examining this program to be implemented, can you share with us the provinces you currently have? How many people are actually on the program right now across the country? That type of thing, please.
For sure. So right now we provide this program to BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and soon to be later this month, Newfoundland as well too. Currently under this program and effective January 1st, we'll have 7,000 real estate professionals insured under it. And we're seeing some steady growth here in BC as of recently, and also some steady growth here in Saskatchewan. With respect to Alberta, we insure about 70% of the real estate agents in Alberta.
Okay, no, that's great. I'm just going to give one more, like 20 seconds in case anyone has any questions. I know for some of you, you've heard this presentation off and on over the last 3 or 4 years. But I just wanted to make sure that that there is opportunity. We do have a draw for those who were kind enough to make time for us for this webinar. We have a wonderful draw, but I'm just going to hold for 1 second to see if there's any questions. Check there too. Okay. I'm going to do a draw. You know the email address is here that is on the screen that you can ask any further questions after this webinar. But I'm going to do the draw, which is a $100 Visa gift card. Thanks to Tool Pete and Adam for the generous incentive to participate. So I'm going to announce the winner. It's Jamie Ryan. No, I'm just joking. I thought that was funny. I had to say that. I can't tell if anyone's laughing.
We got a few laughs.
Jim Yerxa. Jim Yerxa, who can hear me like as if I was in a cave, you have just won a $100 Visa card. I'm pleased to tell you that, and congratulations. Thank you all for participating. We will sign off now. Again, do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have some follow-up questions, and of course any technical questions to Adam. If you have any questions around invoicing, we'll certainly try to help you, but hopefully this has been a straightforward process, and so we will sign off. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.